Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, viewers of all ages, thanks for joining us for the first edition of the Hudson County Review Live. I am your dynamic, charismatic host, John Heinis, and this is my esteemed colleague, Marc Bussanich. Marc, thanks for joining us today. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible without you, so thanks for coming on. So, obviously, it's been an interesting week like any other week in Hudson County, so let's start on a lighter note. Bob Hurley receiving an ESPY this week. It's not too often you see a Jersey City born and bred guy on one of the major networks getting recognized for their athletic achievements. So, I mean, I know you're a big sports fan, so tell me what you thought about that.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I mean, I put on the ESPY Awards, and it's been a long time since I watched the last one, but being it was the 25th anniversary, I thought what a great time it would be to tune in. And I wasn't expecting to see Hurley, but just when I turned it on, there was one of the persons who were introducing different guests, and he announced Bob Hurley. And of course, we interviewed him back in April doing a communion breakfast at the Knights of Columbus in Brooklyn Hall, and I had a chance to interview him about obviously the sad news that he reported that at that time that St. Anthony's High School would have to close because of the lack of funds. The school had done so much to fundraise, but the Archdiocese just couldn't come forward with the money to keep the school open. And it was interesting, one of the biggest things, or one of the more interesting things he said in the interview to me in April was he didn't know what he was going to do come the fall, so it'll be interesting to see. He'll be busy during the summer with basketball clinics, but obviously this will be the first fall where he won't be leading a high school basketball team.
Yeah, you know, it's a bittersweet end. I mean, obviously a storied career, 45 years, which is unprecedented in anything, you know. You don't see too many people with careers that span 5 decades anymore. And the guy brought home, I believe it was 28 state championships, 4 national championships. So, you know, to go out with that Coach of the Year ESPY, I mean, obviously he would love to be able to go back to work in September, I'm sure. But things considered, not a bad way to go out. So, with that said, Marc, obviously one hot topic, one thing that we have been very closely paying attention to has been the Hoboken mayoral race. So let's rewind a bit about a month, actually a little less than that, but when Mayor Dawn Zimmer said she would not be seeking a third term. So did that surprise you, given that she had the support of State Senator Stack? It seemed like the Phil Murphy campaign was behind her getting a third term, and then all of a sudden we got a swerve where she said she wanted to focus on climate change and just decided she wasn't going to run. So what was your reaction when that came out?
I mean, yeah, I think my reaction was the reaction of many people in the community. I mean, I was kind of shocked to hear that she wasn't going to be running for a third term. It seemed like she's pretty popular in the community. In fact, I know a couple people who live in the town and said they were equally shocked. But then again, with all the different candidates now that have announced their candidacy, it seems like there's support there for a different politician to lead the town of Hoboken. I am curious about like what she meant by she wants to lead the fight against climate change. So does that mean she's going to be participating on a national level? Is she going to be participating with, say, for example, a nonprofit, some kind of other organization that's leading the fight against climate change? That issue is a little bit unclear at this point.
Right. I mean, I don't think we ever got a direct answer of, hey, I'm going to work here, I'm going to work there, I'm going to be with this group. I mean, when someone says something like, you know, we're going to go work in climate change, I think the general public assumes that means an opportunity in Washington, D.C. or an opportunity in Trenton. I think we could rule out Washington, D.C. for obvious reasons. And as far as Trenton goes, there was a lot of rumors and speculation that Dawn Zimmer might have a job such as the State Department of Environmental Protection head under Phil Murphy, assuming he wins the election. But, you know, he's very far ahead in the polls, so there's no reason to believe he won't at this point. But, yeah, I mean, I'm still not really sure what that's about. I mean, that remains to be seen. All I could say for sure is she said many times at that press conference that she's had no contact with the Murphy campaign about a job in that administration. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen, of course. And at the same press conference, in another move that was a little interesting, she endorsed Ravi Bala, councilman at large. He's been on the governing body for about 8-9 years now. And since then, there's been a split between the Zimmer faction, if you will, because Council President Jen Giattino has also been characterized and has also typically voted with the Zimmer administration, has also thrown her hat in the ring. So, and then, you know, on the other side of the spectrum, you have Mike DeFusco, who's, of course, since broken away. But, again, he's another council member, and that's without even really getting into the thick of it. So we have, right now, 8 people that said they're running. Who knows where it's going to stop, 10, 12, 15, but obviously a lot of people are interested in filling that vacancy sooner than later.
You know, John, it was interesting the story you just wrote. I think it was yesterday, where when candidate DeFusco took some, kind of lobbied a grenade at the candidacy of Mr. Bala because calling him that he's too much of a political establishment attorney. He's also announced on his slate another attorney who's also what he said was part of the political establishment. And then in turn, Bala's spokesperson said that candidate DeFusco was just crying sour grapes. So were you a little surprised that in his first press release, once he heard whose Bala's slate was, that was his immediate reaction?
Well, nothing really surprises me when it comes to Hudson County politics, and it looks like some good old-fashioned battle royale action in Hoboken, which we're used to, and everyone has a fun time watching. Well, at least from the outside. Maybe from the inside it's not as much fun, but from the outside it's been a lot of fun. But to answer your question directly, no, it didn't surprise me too much. I mean, Councilman DeFusco's just been punching at a torrid pace ever since he announced the week before Memorial Day, and I don't expect that to stop. I mean, he's basically coming into this thing like he's the underdog, and he has to do a lot of damage to win this thing on the judges' scorecards, and I totally understand that. Obviously, he's not going to be the only one. You know, like you said, Councilman Bala's campaign spokesman anyway, was quick to hit back, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that. It's early, you know, it's only mid-July. Some of the candidates haven't even had their campaign kickoff yet, you know, with a fundraiser, whether it be something in front of their headquarters. So there's still a lot more of excitement to look forward to in the Mile Square City, that's for sure.
But with a statement like that, I mean, they still have to work together for at least 4 more months on the city council, so I don't think that that statement by DeFusco is going to help ease the tension as far as their working relationship on the council for the next 4 months.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. Look, let's just take a look at the dais in Hoboken right now. You got, on the far left, you have Mike DeFusco. Next to him is Ravi Bala. Next to him is James Doyle. Next to him is Jen Giattino. I mean, all these people are going to be on the ballot in November. So whether it's for mayor or for council at large, actually, I'm sorry, Mike Russo is in there as well. But nevertheless, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's basically a powder keg ready to explode inside of City Hall. So these council meetings, I mean, look, if you're looking for a free night out for some quality entertainment, 94 Washington Street, not a bad place to go on a Wednesday night.
And you also have to wonder, though, with that kind of statement by DeFusco, does that actually help his campaign? I mean, because, like, when the electorate sees that he's kind of throwing, like, grenades or lobbing grenades like that, do you think that ultimately helps his campaign, or because it's such rough and tumble politics in Hudson County as a whole, that's just standard protocol?
Well, I would say Hoboken is one of the roughest, toughest places around when it comes to the political season. So, you know, as you're well aware, I'm sure, Barack Obama said that politics is a contact sport, and a place like Hoboken really takes it to heart. So, do I think it's going to hurt him in the long term? I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little early to say, but I'm actually going to lean towards no, because I think people like a candidate that is in touch with the issues, that is going to be vocal about things they don't agree with. Now, obviously, he's going to have to talk about some policy at some point, and he's going to have to talk about the changes he wants made in Hoboken and how he plans to do that. But, you know, he's put out more statements at this point than I think all the other campaigns combined. So, you know, clearly he's come with some heavy artillery and he's ready for war.
And also there was a recent announcement by Councilman at Large Bala, now that he's running for mayor, that also, Councilman at Large James Doyle has joined his ticket as well?
Yeah, he's got James Doyle on the slate, which is a good grab. You know, look, he's another guy that's been up on the council for a while, and he's respected among his constituents, among, you know, various residents in different parts of Hoboken, and I'm sure there's a lot of the other slates that would have loved to have had him, so that's a nice grab by Councilman Bala. You can't take that away from him. The other two running mates, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, Emily Jabor and John Allen, I honestly can't say I know them through the political circles, but with an election of this magnitude, of this scope, it's going to be inevitable we're going to see some candidates, especially on the council level, that we don't know. So, you know, it's very interesting. He rolling out the slate all at once. I was expecting at least a different name or two, actually, but, you know, it is what it is now, so all we can do is sit back and wait.
And would you say, just one follow-up question on this, on the Hoboken mayoral race,
Sure.
John, who do you think is in the best position to apply the most resources to be able to campaign heavily among the electorate? Or they all equally have the necessary resources?
Well, look, when you have 8 candidates, there's no such thing as everyone having the same resources. So that's number one. But I mean, more directly, I don't know, everyone's got some strengths, everyone's got their weaknesses like any other situation, but, you know, let's look at Freeholder Romano. He just ran, obviously, a re-election campaign for Freeholder. He busted out about 3,800 votes, so clearly he has an operation, a GoTV, and get out the vote. That is strong, that is effective. However, keep in mind, too, he was on the line. He was on a number of mailers with Phil Murphy, Brian Stack, and that doesn't hurt, you know, especially not in a place like Hudson. So, you know, the question is, how big is his base and how far does it stretch? I mean, we don't know the answer yet. You know, and that message really applies to just about everybody in the top tier, if you will. I mean, again, Jen Giattino, the 6th Ward Councilwoman, you know, what's her support outside the 6th Ward? I mean, we don't know. 1st Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco, what's his support outside the 1st Ward? I don't know. You know, so these are questions that are going to be answered in due time, obviously, but who would I pick today? I mean, it's too early to say, so I'm going to have to take a politician kind of answer and just say it's too early to say.
Too early in the game.
Yeah.
You know, some of our, you know, speaking still on the topic of Hoboken, I mean, one of the stories that I reported, I thought was really popular among the audience was when I reported on when the city council, there was no definite policy decision made, no vote taken by the city council, but when the city council had a debate with members of the audience at a city council hearing back in May, that there was a possibility, or at least there was some council members who were in favor of raising the parking permit fee from $15, and somebody from the audience had, I think it was the Mr. Vance, who's the president of the waterfront, I forget
Coalition
the
for
coalition, yes, who suggested, just threw out an arbitrary number, $300. And in that story, we mentioned that there was a possibility that the parking permit fee can go from $15 to $300. And wow, did it really cause an uproar among the audience? They thought for sure it was a done deal. It had been voted on, but it was just a discussion. But we saw from the comments and from the reaction that many of the Hoboken residents had that it was a really passionate. It was a topic that they were very passionate about.
Well, listen, Mark, I mean, I don't know the last time you drove in Hoboken, but it's no picnic. I mean, the odds of you getting a parking spot in Hoboken on the area you want to go inside, whether it's a restaurant, coffee shop, friend's house, the odds of you getting the first spot on the block you want to be on is probably worse odds than you trying to get a date with Beyonce. So it's not easy. It's very, very difficult as is. So look, parking is a contentious issue in Hoboken. It's always going to be a contentious issue. There's been talk about raising, lowering, canceling the permit fees for, I'm going to say, since the beginning of time, way before either of us were around the political scene here. So yes, I remember the meeting well. And again, anytime this issue comes up, it's going to be hot. People, you know, get angry about this kind of thing because parking is such a premium to the point where it's borderline impossible. So anytime you tell people it's going to cost more, there's going to be less spots, obviously they're not going to be thrilled. You
know, Councilman Russo, I think, was the only one who had said, of the whole council members, who said that the permit should be free for everybody because the taxpayers pay so much in taxes. And I would think that some residents within Hoboken would agree with that, but from Mr. Vance's standpoint, raising the parking permit fee would be a way to incentivize, as a way to make sure that parking spaces are more easily available for Hoboken residents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. Like I said, this issue predates both of us quite a while, but I think free parking, as much as I would love to see it, I think it's a pipe dream. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I mean, let's see. Look, it's an election year, so let's be honest. The odds of this actually coming up for a vote on the council between now and November are slim to none. I mean, you could probably rest easy that this is not going to change between now and then.
Well, speaking of another election year, John, where's the other hot town in Hudson County that has a hot political mayor or council race going on as well?
Well, what's been a lot of excitement has been Ward E in Jersey City. You know, you have all the council seats there and the mayoralty up. So, you know, in Ward E right now, we've got 7 declared candidates. You know, again, the same theme as Hoboken. When the incumbent decides they don't want to run, everyone and their grandma comes out of the woodwork saying, hey, I'm a good candidate, pick me. And that's pretty much what we have now. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I was at an event, I'm sure you saw the other day, of Nick Grillo, a guy that grew up in downtown Jersey City, a guy that's been very involved with the Holy Rosary Church, a guy that also runs a funeral home, and is very well known in the area. And so he's a guy that actually declared his candidacy a year ago, and was originally going to run at large, but then decided to go with Ward East since that's where he's born and raised, and that's his bread and butter, if you will. What I found very interesting about this event was two of the people that were central in running it was political operative Tom Bertoli and former Jersey City Democratic Organization Chairman Sean Sully Thomas Sullivan. Now, the reason that's interesting, these guys were two central figures in the Fulop campaign back in 2013, and, you know, ever since the fallout from Fulop deciding not to run for governor, they have jumped ship. I mean, not exactly clear on whose ship that is, but they're certainly not on Team Fulop anymore. So it's going to be interesting what that dynamic's like. So, I mean, I don't know. What's your take on that?
Well, one thing that kind of struck me was, well, I covered one of the candidates who's running LGBT activist, Michael Bussanich, I should say.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, back in maybe late May or middle of May. He announced, or he was announcing his campaign to Jersey City residents right here at the Grove Street Pad Station.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, and I had asked him a question about, regarding his campaign against who at that time was still the incumbent, Candace Osborne, correct? And then I was surprised to read only a couple weeks later that she decided to drop out of the race. So I was a little bit curious about what was the decision, what led her to completely drop out of the race.
Yeah, I mean, again, unfortunately, around here, when people drop out of races, and we see this statewide, we see this nationally, you don't really get a very broad picture of what's going on. You usually get, you know, pretty generic explanation, and all we really got was, you know, she wanted to spend more time with her family, and I'm not saying that's not true. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Right.
But we don't really know the nuts and bolts of what was behind the decision. Yeah. You know, no one's really pulled back the curtain on that, and I don't think they will. I think everyone's kind of over it. They know Candace isn't running again, so I think everyone's just kind of like, well, on to the next one. Who's going to win now? You know, to your point, my understanding is that the mayor's going to stay out of this one. They're not going to endorse officially in Ward E, but unofficially it will be interesting to see who they back. If anybody, maybe they stay out altogether, but it's going to be interesting to see who, if they have a preferred preference behind the scenes in Ward E.
Well, the field is just as crowded as it is in Hoboken for the mayoral's race. So, you know, we know that Mayor Fulop has done some, I guess people would say, have been progressive, you know, things, policies that he's done for Jersey City. So who do you think of all the candidates would match his policies, ideologically that is? Who do you think would be the best candidate to match Mayor Fulop in policy-wise?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think the person that a lot of people believe that he would prefer to win is Rebecca Symes. I mean, somebody very sharp and politically astute. She was an aide for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and she's somebody that has run at least one Board of Ed campaign successfully in the past. She's obviously very familiar with the landscape, and is a young up-and-comer in politics as far as most politicos and observers are concerned. So, you know, she's got the top billing from some, but as I noted the other day, though, Nick Grillo, a guy able to get some people that are on the outs from the Hudson County Democratic Organization, but also there were people that are clearly still active members of the HCDO, like Anthony Romano, Freeholder Maldonado, Councilman Daniel Rivera. So, you know, that's a little interesting too.
Right.
So, and you know, when you have 8 people, keep in mind Jersey City still has the runoff. So,
that's right.
When you have 8 people, I mean, all we're talking about right now is probably going to be moot because the odds that this is all going to end on November 7th is nearly impossible. We're almost definitely going to a runoff in Ward E. Now, how many people go, whether it's 3 or 5 or 17, I mean, we don't know who's going to announce it, who's actually going to submit their petitions. But all we can say for sure is we're definitely going to see a runoff. I mean, I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying that.
Interesting. Well, most of the candidates, most of their platform is that we obviously know all the economic development that Jersey City's experienced over the last 10, 15 years. We know, for example, that Councilman, or rather candidate Bussanich had said that it'd be great if the city could kind of equalize that economic development to other areas of Jersey City. Is Ward E one of those areas that could use a lot more economic development?
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, a lot of people that live in Jersey City that talk to me anyway believe that Ward E is kind of like the gem of Jersey City, and they already get all the benefits that a lot of the other wards don't. So, look, I mean, there's always room for improvement. Nobody's perfect. Nothing's perfect. But, you know, to your question, I don't really see a ton more development going there. I mean, there's so much that's happened. I mean, there's, you know, if you just walk up and down this area, you know, whether it's Newark or Christopher Columbus, I mean, you know, you got some beautiful apartment complexes, restaurants, clubs, bars. I mean, you know, you got a booming nightlife. You got great places to live. Again, anything could be improved. Anything in life could be better. But I think the way it is now is, I think, what a lot of the other wards would like to see their neighborhood look like. Not all, of course,
right,
but I think a lot.
And that was one of the messages that Steve Fulop, during his State of the City speeches, and rather than just doing it, having one State of the City speech at City Hall, he went to all the different wards. And was it Council A that I think that requires the most? I might be confusing Ward E with another, or Ward A rather, with another ward, but that ward of Jersey City where he went to specifically to say, hey, we need more economic development in this part of Jersey City.
Yeah, I believe that was Ward A. Yeah, I mean, that's closer to like the Bayonne border,
right,
near Route 440. I mean, that area is part of Ward A. You know, Ward A and F, as you know, are two of the more underprivileged wards in Jersey City. So those are the wards that have been talking about, hey, how could we get more responsible development, which of course would create more jobs, and you know, just basically a more family-friendly lifestyle. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically what people are hoping for in Ward A and F, and, you know, some of them feel like they've been shortchanged up to this point, so, you know, let's see how that impacts those elections and those wards.
You know, and what we just talked about earlier, John, about Hoboken, where we've seen some of the candidates kind of taking shots at each other, political shots, that is, as the leading up to the mayoral race in November.
No physical shots, yeah.
No physical, just exactly. Want to make that clear. But do you see that kind of political, I guess, biting going on also among the Council Ward E candidates in Jersey City? Or has it mostly been kind of quiet on that front?
Well, actually, funny enough, no one's really put the gloves on and started swinging in Jersey City yet. I'm not exactly sure why. But no, it's been pretty tame on that end so far. But is it going to happen? I mean, I'll bet you any amount of money it's going to happen. I mean, I was just thinking about it on the way over, how when it was Steve Fulop against Jeremiah Healy, those guys were just tearing each other from limb to limb, and let's just say it was no holds barred. So I'm sure that's not going to change this time around. And why would it? I mean, it's Hudson County politics. That's the only reason people pay attention to this stuff.
Interesting. Well, national politics, what is state politics? If we were to bring up, obviously the big issue, I guess last week was all the heat that Governor Christie was taking because the state parks have been closed, but yet he was photographed. In fact, the NJ.com had chartered a flight to take pictures of him on while he was resting with his family on the beach. And what was your immediate reaction to that?
My reaction was, well, this is pretty typical Christie, pretty typical New Jersey. I mean, you know, obviously I didn't agree with it, but you know, I laughed. I'm not going to tell you I did. You know, it's something that you would not see in too many other states. That's all I can say.
Right.
But you know, obviously there was a lot of fallout. State was shut down for 3 days. Now there's bills going through the legislature about whether or not state workers are going to be paid or not. And it does look like they will get their back pay, which they certainly are owed. So obviously that's a good thing if you work for the DMV or one of those other many agencies that had to, you know, unexpectedly take days off. So, so yeah, I mean, look, it's again, it's New Jersey in a nutshell.
Well, you know, I did, you know, one story that I reported on from Union City last week, John, was, or just this past week on Tuesday, I had the opportunity to interview Congressman Albio, if I'm pronouncing his first name correctly.
Albio Series, yeah.
Series, that is. And he was there participating at Hudson Community College for a naturalization ceremony, which was really interesting because of all the rhetoric we've heard from Donald Trump about the need to build a border wall along the U.S.'s southern border with Mexico, and also I think a partial ban is now been implemented in certain Middle Eastern, in effect for certain Middle Eastern countries, and it was really significant to be attending this type of event given what's been going on on the national, nationally. But one off-topic question that I had the opportunity to ask him about, because he sits on the very important and influential House, this is now the House that is a Republican-controlled House of Transportation and Infrastructure. Obviously, they asked him about the future of the Gateway Tunnel, because maybe a lot of people don't know, but like an important part of the construction of that new Gateway Tunnel will be happening right in North Bergen. And he said that he's doing all that he can to make sure that the New Jersey, the state that is, can get the federal funds that it needs to be able to build that tunnel. Which right now the price tag, I think it was just reported on this week, has gone up kind of substantially. I think it's about a $20 billion project.
It's a monumentally large project. I believe $900 million was just passed through the Senate, actually by Rep. Rodney Frelinghuysen. So, obviously it's not a done deal yet, but, that's a nice gesture. But to your point about the Gateway Tunnel and its impact on Hudson County, I mean, look, anyone from Tom DeGees to Steve Fulop to Bob Menendez to Cory Booker to Phil Murphy to Kim Guadagno, anyone that has paid an iota of attention to the infrastructure in New Jersey has been talking about this Gateway Tunnel for many, many years. Anybody that takes public transportation like yourself, NJ Transit, The Path, etc., they just don't cut it. I mean, there's constant delays, cars out of service unexpectedly, people get to work late, etc. And this is just something that has been this way for so many years that it's really a shame that it hasn't changed. But by the same token, we're talking $20 billion. I mean, I don't even think Donald Trump has that kind of money in the piggy bank. So, this is substantial money. Yeah. It's not going to be something that could be funded overnight. It's not something that could even be funded in a couple years. So, I mean, it's a very difficult situation that's going to take a lot of bipartisan work and just basically people rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands a little dirty. But
it also seems an opportunity because, as we mentioned, the tunnel itself goes under through North Bergen to get to the Hudson River, to go under the Hudson River, that is. The tracks from North Bergen. It would seem that that kind of project could offer a lot of economic opportunities for Hudson County residents. Have you been hearing anything about, like, whether the towns are, because to try to help to reduce their overall unemployment rate, whether they're looking to maybe create some kind of jobs program that those residents could be part of that project? Have you heard anything like that at all?
I can't say I've heard anything like that. I'm sure that's inevitably going to happen, assuming this Gateway project gets off the ground, but I think it's a little early. As we were just discussing, the funding hasn't been secured completely, and I mean, until you're going to get 80–90% of the funding like firmly squared away, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. Because again, this is a project that's going to be large scale, long term. I would say it's going to take probably a decade.
At a minimum.
At a minimum, yeah.
And it's not just the construction of the new tunnels, but it's also it's also a new portal bridge over the Hackensack River, so that's also included in the overall project.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's going to be obviously something worth watching, and hopefully we get an end result that is beneficial to the residents and commuters through Hudson.
So, is that all of our topics for discussion that we've covered so far this week, or is there another topic you wanted to mention before we wrap up, John?
The only other thing I wanted to say was just wanted to put out not only our thoughts and prayers to the Melvin Santiago family. Obviously, it was the 3-year anniversary of his tragic death yesterday, but also just to all our brothers and sisters in blue for all that you do. I know you weren't there, Mark, but I can tell you, very tough situation and just a very sad ceremony that really hits close to home. Even for those of us that are not members of law enforcement, I'm sure we all have a family, friend, loved one who is, and just seeing these kind of things, it's always tough to cover, so I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Indeed, John, indeed. We want to give a thank you to Indy Grove, the co-working space here at Grove Street, near the Grove Street Pad Station, for making this space available for us to produce the very first live broadcast of Hudson County Review, that is, a week of today being Friday, having a discussion about all the week's political events that occurred in Hudson County. So we want to thank the audience for participating in this very first broadcast.
Ladies and germs, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back soon with many guests upcoming for the remainder of the summer, so stay tuned and be well. Enjoy the weekend.